Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today. We are going to tackle a super fascinating problem right at the heart of artificial intelligence. Think about how effortlessly you and I understand words, or how your phone's virtual assistant just seems to know exactly what you mean when you ask it to set a morning alarm. But for a machine, decoding human language is incredibly complex. Today, our explainer is focusing entirely on how artificial intelligence actually cracks this code, specifically through the lens of lexical semantics and meaning representation. So here's the million-dollar question. How does a machine actually understand the relationship between human words? We humans deal with word ambiguity completely naturally. If I say I sat on the riverbank versus I deposited money in the bank, you instantly know the difference, right? But how do we map those exact same words to actual meaning inside a computer system so that it can reason, search, and truly understand us?
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. Number 1, defining lexical semantics. 2, the representation blueprints. 3, the 4 approaches. And 4, comparing the models. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, defining lexical semantics.
So what actually is lexical semantics? Well, it's a specific subfield of linguistics and natural language processing. And the absolute crucial point here is that rather than analyzing entire sentences as a whole, this field focuses intensely on individual words, what experts often call lexical items. It looks closely at how these individual words denote specific concepts, how they map out to the real world, and how they relate structurally to literally all the other words in a language's lexicon.
Now, to map out this crazy, complex web of human language, we look at a few key areas of study. First up, we have word senses, which deals with things like polysemy. That's when one single word has multiple related meanings. Then we've got relations you're definitely familiar with, like synonymy for similar meanings and antonymy for opposite meanings. But it gets a lot deeper into hierarchies. Hyponymy and hypernymy deal with is-a relationships. Like how a dog is a canine. And then muronymy and holonymy deal with part-whole relationships, like how a wheel is a part of a car. This structured web is exactly what machines need to learn to make sense of our world.
Section 2, the representation blueprints.
So to bridge that massive gap between messy human language and rigid computing, we use meaning representation languages. You can really just think of these as the actual blueprints for artificial intelligence. Because, let's be real, you can't just feed raw English text into a processor and expect it to think. We have to map those natural language statements into rigid, formal structures. Once the data is locked into this structured blueprint format, then machines can reliably store the information, search through it super efficiently, and most importantly, perform logical reasoning. We're essentially translating everyday English into strict mathematical blueprints.
Section 3, the 4 approaches.
All right, blueprint number 1 is first-order logic, or FOL for short. Take a simple sentence like, every student reads a book. When you translate that into FOL, it turns into this intense mathematical logic. See those quantifiers? That upside-down A literally means universal or for all, and the backward E means existential or there exists. So it mathematically reads, for all X, if X is a student, then there exists a Y that is a book and X reads Y. It represents meaning using objects, properties, and relations. This approach gives AI an incredibly strong mathematical foundation and allows for rigorous, flawless deductive inference. The second approach is semantic networks. Now, unlike that heavy math we just looked at, this is an entirely graph-based representation. In this model, concepts or entities are nodes, and they're hooked together by directed edges that define the relationship, using those exact lexical semantics we talked about earlier, like is-a or has part. What makes semantic networks so incredibly popular is that they are highly intuitive. In fact, they closely match the cognitive models of how human memory actually works through graph traversal. It's like a giant interconnected map of ideas.
Now, approaches 3 and 4 take slightly different angles on mapping meaning, so let's contrast them. On one side, we have conceptual dependency theory, which was developed by Roger Schenck. This breaks sentences down into universal, domain-independent semantic primitives. For instance, any physical transfer of location is tagged as p-trans. So whether you say John gave Mary a book or Mary received a book from John, conceptual dependency maps them to the exact same primitive structure because the underlying action is identical. In stark contrast to that, frame semantics, proposed by Charles Fillmore, completely throws out primitives. Instead, it relies on situational schemas called frames that describe typical situations. Take a commercial transaction frame, for example. It has required slots that absolutely must be filled: buyer, seller, goods, and money. It groups meaning by the roles played in a very specific structured event. Section 4. Comparing the models.
Now, what's really interesting about this is when we put these four approaches head to head. The absolute biggest trade-off here is between expressive power and computational tractability. First-order logic is amazingly expressive, but its heavy calculations cause massive performance bottlenecks. On the flip side, semantic networks and frame semantics are blazing fast for machines to process, but they sacrifice a bit of that raw logical power to get that speed. Plus, while conceptual dependency is a total game changer for normalizing different synonyms into one identical action, it kind of struggles with mapping out abstract concepts compared to the situational, slot-filling structure of frame semantics. Understanding these specific trade-offs is absolutely crucial when engineers are deciding how to build an AI system.
And this brings us to a pretty massive realization about the field of natural language processing. There is literally no single perfect blueprint. Building an AI requires choosing the exact right tool for the job. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Which computational trade-off is best suited for the future of AI understanding? In the real world, do we prioritize the flawless, expressive power of first-order logic or the raw computational speed of semantic networks and frame semantics? It is a fascinating question and one that continues to drive the entire future of machine learning. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.